My name's Eileen Barker. I've always been concerned about the cannabis spreading. And I just want to say, I want to know how the council can um, express our opinion to the CRDA, because CRDA's all into having the cannabis together. They don't care about our city. I called up Mr. Landgraf and complained about it. And he said, Eileen, when are you going to realize it's not about Atlantic City being a family town. It's about making money and the cannabis. And this is what he said to me. So they don't have any interest in protecting our children. So I was just wondering if you could, if the council could express the feelings that more cannabis stores are not good.
I understand that CRDA has overlapping jurisdiction with us, Mr. BA, but I have a problem when the accuracy of, and this isn't a map, this is a list of blocks and lots. I just have a problem when something we're expected to vote on, the accuracy of what's written seems to be in question.
The CRDA about whether they approved this. They said no, that they did not approve it. They had discussions. They discussed everything he said, which I did call and ask for the letter that went back between Carl and Lance Landgraf. I never got, and I wanted to follow proper procedure. So I asked them, they asked you to give it to me. I never got it. Probably slipped your mind or whatever. But as of yesterday, 5 o'clock, they did not approve it.
Anybody driving over the Albany Avenue Bridge can get a visual in your mind where the tire shop is and where the mosque is. It's something as clear as day that it violates this proposed buffer zone. So I have a problem with the accuracy of what we're doing. And I feel like a lot of this effort, especially when it comes to Albany Avenue, has been rushed. I mean, I just, that's my perspective on it. CRDA, if it were acting like a planning board, would have the time between first and second reading to review things and then give feedback and input. They didn't. You know, it was introduced by the administration as new business on first reading, Albany Avenue specific. And then CRDA's input is kind of asked for after the fact. The other question I had about this is, since there was a petition that was submitted drawing on state statute for referendum, which, if accepted, kind of freezes the ordinance that enabled Albany Avenue from taking effect, why is that being included in this? Why isn't that like kind of segued until that issue is resolved? My understanding is that the whole thing's under review. Like, why isn't that kind of set aside until that's resolved, what's happening? Why is it being commingled with this? So that would be a question for Mr. BA, whoever. Atlantic Avenue between Georgia Avenue and Mississippi Avenue on the side of the street that's closest to St. Michael's Church and the Franciscan Sisters of the Renewal. And I'll just start off the dialogue on this one. The sisters objected to these lots being included in the green zone after it was brought to their attention. They were not engaged in the initial conversation about this. And their testimony at CRDA was they were horrified that this was going to be next to their religious institution where they do rehab classes and other things. And so that's part of my motivation, just FYI to the dais. Thank you.
That we did meet with Mr. Landgraf. I attended one of the meetings. What you see before you was sent to CRDA, letting them know we're putting this on. So, and we put it on with CRDA's knowledge and consent. So I understand that you had a meeting after that at 5 where there was comment, but they have not reached back out to us. So I would just ask that you just pass it on first reading as it is.
We'll fix it then.
There it is.
Oh, yeah.
Gotta be gentle.
Yeah. I did ask for copies of the correspondence between CRDA and Lance so that I would know and not come to this meeting unprepared, to not give you a chance to answer those questions ahead of time.
The administration negotiates, council does not. So we were still negotiating with CRDA, and it wasn't proper to give you something that were emails back and forth about those negotiations.
People turn their mics off, please. And Council President, just so you know, we are the redevelopment entity. That is a redevelopment issue. You negotiate with us. So technically you do, but it's a redevelopment issue and should come to us, even under MISRA, and they have a right to turn it down after we do it. We are the redevelopment entity, and it's very important
We
that
know
we
that.
keep our powers.
Okay, I
We know that.
understand that, and technically, take a look at Misra.
Yeah.
DCA is the redevelopment authority for the city.
That's right.
And they're in charge of the whole city, but they let you run it, and they let us do ours, and then
They
they
are
have
the,
final oversight.
by law and statute,
Yeah.
DCA is the redevelopment entity for the city.
By eliminating the blocks and lots on Albany Avenue. Now, you said you've been in discussions with CRDA.
Our whole team has been legal
Okay.
and,
No, the reason I'm saying that is, again, they knew this was going on this agenda tonight,
yes,
and they have not reached back out to you and say, hold off, we'd rather you postpone that till after we have our next meeting.
not to my knowledge, unless, Mr. Timbers or Jock
So,
Howard receives something.
far as your knowledge is, CRDA right now is green lighting this.
As far as I know right now, that's why it's on the agenda. I made sure that CRDA was okay with what we're putting forward. So that's why you have what you have. Now, if something changed, I understand it was late. It was a conversation last night, but I still didn't receive an email saying, BA, don't put this on, or BA, make this change.
Specific improvements to the and amendments to the green zone does excise several lots, and your question is, why isn't it placed as an addendum there? Perhaps it wasn't put in there.
If that's the case, then I might have some like disputes with what the calculations are. If in response to your answer, I have a problem with the way this is composed, because it doesn't seem to be accurate based on the buffer zones that we're contemplating in the ordinance. So that I'm not sure what we do from this point. I mean, I can even give specifics. I mean, that's what we're talking about, Masjid Muhammad Mosque on Albany Avenue, and we're talking about the lots immediately on either side of it. I mean, it's not even that they're 100 feet or 500 feet. I mean, they're 2 feet away from each other. I mean, they're literally contiguous.
This particular calculation was also factored in, and it has been negotiated with the CRDA as well.
So you're telling me a negotiation with the city's taken the position that a lot that is literally right next, I mean, when I'm talking contiguous, there's a line and you've got the mosque on one side of the line and it touches property line to lot 4. You're taking the position that that's not violating a buffer zone between a proposed use and a house of worship. I mean, I'm having trouble wrapping my mind around
So
it.
let me interrupt real quick. You're asking the director to go in detail and go through this ordinance with you. We would have
Right.
made this available to have these discussions with you prior to the council meeting if you had
Yes.
these questions. The ordinance controls. Whether you see it on the map that's provided, if it says within certain feet of a house of worship, if it is within those parameters, then you can't do it. Within 200 feet of a church, you cannot do it. Period. End of story. CRDA will be policing that as well because it is in the tourism district. Doesn't matter what we say with that. CRDA will be policing this. We went through this whole document with CRDA. They're okay with the buffer zones. We negotiated the buffer zones with them, and it becomes enforcement. So if you want us after first reading to sit down with you with CRDA there as well, and we can go through all the buffer zones and you can ask your detailed questions now, because what you're doing right now is you're putting the director kind of in the spot to address those particular issues that really should be sat down and talked about, not in open session, but together as a team so you understand them. So, but the general law is the ordinance will control whatever buffer zones are in the ordinance. Those are the ones that will control, and CRDA, they'd have to get CRDA approval as well. So if it's in the tourism district, really don't matter what we think. You know that. If the buffer zone is what it is, CRDA controls. If it's in the tourism district.
Well, just a couple things, Mr. BA. First, just for the purpose of like our conversation out here, I did raise this specific question ahead of time, in writing, and I'd be glad to share with you the email. I didn't get an answer on it. I had a little bit of a dialogue, and I want to acknowledge, Mr. Timbers for the dialogue on it. But I didn't get an answer to it. So it's not that I'm springing this question ahead of time. In fact, I believe the director was on one of the email threads that I put forward.